the case files of Lieutenant Joe Kenda.
Oh my God, he shot himself.
First, an apparent suicide that doesn't add up.
Everything tells us he's lying.
What if they're involved in it and they're trying to lay it off on the deceased?
And a shocking discovery that sends the team running for cover.
Found some explosives.
Now the situation has become dangerous.
Then,
Is that a skull?
a repository of human remains unearths an ancient mystery.
These bones are very, very fragile and could even be carried off by the wind.
Honestly, I don't know what we're looking at.
The initial thought I had was a little bit of panic. Like, how are we going to solve this? Physical evidence doesn't have an opinion. Physical evidence isn't emotional. It's just evidence. It speaks loudly and clearly, without any hint of a lie. Humans aren't that way, particularly when you're standing on their tail. There's one thing that never changes: murder. A life has been taken. Their stories are now my stories. I never know where a case is going to lead, but I'll never stop until it's solved. Somebody has to look out for the victim. If you kill, I will find you.
It's been a long night for Rose Swally, a 32-year-old female who's babysitting her friend's children.
Okay, settle down. Look, if you put down the guns, I'll let you watch a movie, okay? Alright. You guys pick out what you want to watch, and I'll go make some popcorn. Cool?
She finally gets them calmed down enough. She goes to the kitchen.
Alright, I'm coming. Jeez.
Oh my God, he shot himself.
What? Who?
Jeffrey, please, you gotta come help me.
She opens the door, and it's a neighbor, somebody she knows.
You can stay put, okay? Just watch the movie. I'll be right back.
You have to commend her babysitting skills because they obeyed her.
She goes inside.
Oh my God.
And just blood everywhere. Blood and brain parts everywhere.
What happened?
I don't know.
Did you call 911?
No.
Okay, sweetie, listen to me. Where is your phone? Yes, my neighbor's husband, he shot himself. I don't know, yes. Yes, please, just send someone, please.
Across town, Lieutenant Kenda is attempting to make a dent in an ever-growing stack of paperwork.
We have invoices from the evidence custodian requiring my signature for release of property. I had so many, I had a signature stamp, and I was looking at those and stamping my signature, authorizing release.
It's Kevin. He's Stone. I got him. Bye.
That particular area was high crime area in 1991. If I was going to walk a dog, I wouldn't walk it in that neighborhood for fear it would take incoming gunfire from somewhere.
You, Lieutenant.
Gentlemen, that's what we got. They got one male victim inside, gunshot wound to the head. Medical's already pronounced him dead. We're advised that the victim in this case is a 39-year-old Jeffrey Pearson. He suffered what appears to be a single gunshot wound to the head and is laying inside. Got two witnesses, one of which is a wife. Both reporting suicide right now.
We're looking at it now. I'll take a look inside first.
Yes, sir. Hey, just a heads up, this one's pretty gruesome.
Okay, then.
There's a Harley-Davidson motorcycle parked in the living room, and it has an oil leak. You don't normally find a Harley-Davidson parked in somebody's living room.
Guys who ride Harleys tend to be really attached to them, and they like to keep them in the house like a pet.
few feet from the motorcycle, the detectives catch their first glimpse of the victim.
Oh. Yikes.
Yeah, you weren't kidding.
The damage to the head of the victim, Mr. Pearson, is so dramatic that it's going to require taking him to autopsy before we can determine where the gunshot entered and where it left his head. It's a mess. There is an enormous number of alcohol containers, both empty and partially full, around this room.
That's a 357. That portion explains his condition.
357 Magnum is a very powerful round designed to cause a lot of trauma inside the body.
If it's in your mouth when the trigger is pulled, sometimes the crown of your skull attaches to a light fixture in the ceiling.
Let's get the body to the morgue right away. I want to get some autopsy results as soon as possible.
Yes, sir. 31 advised coroner, we're going to transport. Hey guys, that one went through the floor.
That's interesting.
As we further conduct our investigation, we do see what we believe to be a bullet fragment or bullet impact on the floor near the base of the wall. That's interesting. In a suicide, you don't see a lot of times where people, fire more than one round.
Let's see if CSI can make heads or tails of the blood spatter. I want to know where this guy was when he got shot.
Yes, sir. Blood spatter is very directional. It can give you a very close height measurement as to where the impact occurred. Was the person sitting down? Was it consistent with the scene? Is it inconsistent with the scene?
The circumstances we find there do not say suicide. What if they're involved in it and they're trying to lay it off on the deceased?
So you think this might not be a suicide?
I'm not sure. We'll have a better idea when we talk to 2 witnesses.
In the front yard, detectives speak with the victim's wife, Barbara Pearson.
Ma'am, I'm very sorry, but I need to ask questions about your husband's death.
I don't understand why Doc would do this.
Doc?
My husband, his name's Jeffrey, but everyone calls him Doc. He's had the nickname since the war.
Barbara tells us that her husband was a Marine veteran, served in Vietnam, suffered a very traumatic facial injury while in Vietnam, had a lot of reconstructive surgeries, and some mental pain, some PTSD.
The PTSD was terrible. His mind was a mess. When he got back, he put his body through hell, too.
She explained to us that later on he suffers a broken back during a parachute jump, and while riding a motorcycle, he suffers a serious injury during a traffic accident where he has to have one knee replaced.
She explained because of all these injuries, Doc was in a lot of pain, chronic pain. It's a very common way to self-medicate, particularly at that period of time. We had not been hit with opioids at that point, and so your cheapest, easiest pain relief, alcohol.
I mean, with everything he'd been through, I never could blame him for hitting the bottle. I guess he was feeling a lot of pain, but I never thought he'd kill himself.
Was there anything that happened last night that might have motivated the shooting?
I don't know. I mean, when I came home, he was having a great time with his friends Ricky and Jose.
I don't know about you, but I think Blue Oyster called it. Hey, babe.
Three reeks of booze. Hope none of you plan on driving tonight.
I've thought about it.
You guys could always just sleep on the floor next to the bike.
I went into the kitchen to clean up, and that's when it happened.
Doc, what was that?
She runs back into the living room. Doc is on the floor, head wound of massive nature, and the gun is a few inches from his hand.
It's like a bad dream.
Ma'am, you mentioned there were 2 men with your husband. Was
was our understanding from the officers that there was only one other person besides yourself when they arrived.
No, there were two. Ricky Fulton and Jose Chavez. After the gunshot, when I came to see what happened, Ricky was heading out the door.
Well, that's a little odd, isn't it? If this is a suicide, everyone should be in shock. One of them shouldn't be running out the front door. That causes an alarm to go off in my head. Normally, a uniformed officer will never interrupt an interview.
Ma'am, do you think
But the look in his face told me it's time to interrupt.
Hey, excuse me. We're getting everybody out of the house right now. Looks like we found some explosives. I think the whole place is wired.
Now this situation has become dangerous.
All right, let's go.
The next step is to get everybody out of that crime scene before it literally blows up in our face. We are investigating the reported suicide of Jeffrey Pearson. However, officers have just discovered a booby trap, an improvised explosive device. And if there's one, there could be certainly more than one.
That really shifts the whole situation from something that has happened to something that may happen. And the may in this situation is not ever good.
Let's carefully evacuate the premises.
We don't know what we might encounter. Is some policeman going to hit a tripwire and ignite this place? I don't know. He's a Marine. He's got PTSD. Who knows what he's done in here?
What's the IED look like?
It's pretty damn crude. It's rigged up with a mousetrap of all things.
The uniformed officer says there's a 12-gauge shotgun shell live attached to a mousetrap that's been altered to alter the mousetrap spring device. So when it's moved or brushed or even touched, the spring releases, strikes the cap of the shotgun shell, and whoever in front of it dies.
Oh, bombs burst.
They carry a kit that has mirrors in it and all kinds of pliers and various devices they use to examine explosives. He goes in, he finds the shotgun shell mousetrap. He disarms it. He finds a second one. He disarms that one. He finds about a half dozen of these
Devices take the pressure off the spring and render them safe.
We're all clear. All the devices were near the windows and doors. Somewhat of a crude alarm system.
Yeah, the victim's wife said he suffered from post-traumatic stress. That might explain his actions.
If you have someone who suffers from PTSD, they are paranoid. They believe their enemies will seek them out and kill them. And Mr. Pearson obviously hasn't, or he wouldn't be booby-trapping his own home.
While Jeffrey Pearson's apparent mental illness suggests he took his own life, Kenda's instincts tell him otherwise.
All right, Bill, I appreciate your help.
No problem.
So, do you want to continue to talk to the wife? She's still a little upset, so I was going to send her to one of her neighbor's house until she can kind of recover.
Yeah, I don't think we get much more from her right now. We need to talk to Jose, the other guy in the room. Can you bring him to the station? I want to swing by the morgue, see if they had a chance to look at the body.
All right, I'll meet you at the station.
The coroner's had the body for a few hours, and I'm hoping by looking at it, he can provide some insight as to whether Mr. Pearson died from suicide or murder.
Hey, Doc, any updates?
For starters, I was able to run the gunshot residue test on his hands.
Gunshot residue will pick up barium and antimony from the primer and will determine whether somebody was holding a firearm. As part of the investigations reported that he fired the weapon, we want to see if we can confirm that.
Gunshot residue test came back positive.
Okay, so he pulled the trigger on a gun. Yes, he did. Maybe he fired that shot into the floor, but he didn't put this one in his own head. Somebody put it there for him.
Anything else?
I recovered the jacket and the slug from inside the skull. The autopsy isn't finished yet, but that's where we stand for now.
Every little bit helps. Thank you.
Kenda's best hope for getting to the truth lies with one of the two eyewitnesses.
We go to see Jose Chavez, and he is a nervous wreck.
I didn't do anything. I swear. I went over to Doc's. Doc and his neighbor Ricky were in there drinking.
They were pretty lit up.
Yo! With the cops?
Oh,
Hey, Doc. What's going on? Hey, Rick, what's going on?
Hey, what's up? Get a beer, man. Come on in. Get a beer.
Alright. Catch up.
How long you guys been drinking?
What month is it?
Okay, so we have 3 happy drunks and a motorcycle in his living room. I don't think the motorcycle shot Mr. Pearson, so talk to me, Jose. What's going on here?
After a while, I was feeling pretty good myself.
He says while they're drinking, Ricky and Doc decide they're going to start playing with a gun.
This is perfect self-defense gun.
Shiny.
One shot, stop a man dead in his tracks.
That thing isn't loaded, is it?
This now. Bullets are right there in that cup. Jesus, man! What are you doing? That's crazy.
Just do a good night, Doc.
He thought he unloaded it, but he left one in it. He puts the gun down.
After about a minute, Doc's wife Barbara came home. She went to the kitchen, and I got up to leave. And then the gun went off again.
Jose says as he turns his back to leave, a shot is fired, he turns around, and Doc is on the floor. He doesn't know how it happened, he doesn't know who had the gun.
So you're telling me you didn't say anything at all? No, man, I just heard it. That's all.
Obviously, he's lying through his teeth. It's obvious to me that he is.
So you saw him playing with a gun. You saw him shoot around it on the floor. But somehow you missed it when he shot himself in the head? Come on, Jose. I mean, I saw him moving out the corner of my eye, but my back was turned.
We're pretty confident he's playing games. His mannerisms, everything tell us he's lying.
On the truth? How about we hook him through a polygraph? Instead.
Who's the machine that tells us the truth? We got one right down the hall.
Whatever, man. I'll take your test. All right. Stay put.
Okay, fine. We arrange one. We deliver Jose to the polygraph suite.
Give me about an hour.
All right, I'll see you then. I'm gonna head to the office. I'll be back in a bit.
While I'm waiting for a result to come out of the polygraph suite, I get a phone call from the crime scene technician, Charlie Green, who says he has some updates on the blood spatter that he has interpreted in the house.
What do you got for me?
I just got to tell you, the results are pretty conclusive.
Green explains that upon measurements and viewing the spatter, he was shot squarely in the back of the head, back to front, and the blood spatter goes directly from the head to the opposing wall.
There's just no way this was a suicide, Lieutenant. Someone else shot him.
I appreciate the information.
Well, we happen to have another person in our possession, Mr. Jose Chavez, who is present when this happens and who has a memory lapse at the crucial moment. So, Jose, what are you going to tell us now? We're investigating the death of Jeffrey Pearson, a 39-year-old veteran, which was described to us as a suicide. We're now in possession of physical evidence that says the exact opposite. It's not a suicide, it is a homicide. Now the question is, who is responsible?
Convinced that witness Jose Chavez is lying, Kenda has asked him to take a polygraph.
Is your name Jose Chavez?
Yes, it is. Are you now in Colorado Springs? Yes.
The polygraph was just a machine that reads how his body is reacting to these questions.
Did you see who shot Jeffrey Pearson?
No, I did not.
And so it's very hard to hide that.
You should have permit. I'll say this. If I were a teacher and Jose Chavez was a student, I'd give him an F.
Thank you. Give us a few minutes.
Sure.
Mr. Chavez, we need to talk. Now we know you've been lying to us this entire time. Why don't you tell us what really happened?
don't waste my time, or I'll figure out a way to blame you for Pearson's death. What happened?
Look, I ain't no snitch. I don't even want to be involved, okay? Look around. You're involved up to your neck in all this.
Listen, Earth to Jose, where are you right now? You're in a police station, talking to me. Do you think you're not involved in this? Because I think you are.
Okay, fine. After Doc shot a bullet through the floor, they went right back to messing around with the gun. What do you mean messing around? They were playing Russian roulette.
Russian roulette was originally played to exhibit bravery, that you are brave enough to play with a loaded firearm and take a chance on killing yourself. And then it became just a game. Alcohol is almost always involved.
So, what? They took one bullet, put it in the chamber, spun it, and then pointed it to their heads?
Not really.
Was it like one guy holding it to his head, and clicking, let's see if it dry fires or kills me? They were actually shooting at each other, which is almost incomprehensible.
And then it happened. Ricky shot Doc. How do we know this was an accident? Is there any history of bad blood between Doc and Ricky that you're aware of? Jeez, I don't know. I don't know Ricky. I just know he's...
We now have reason to believe Ricky Fulton is responsible for Doc's death. What level of responsibility, we don't know yet. Whether it's murder or reckless, negligent homicide, we have him as the shooter.
So Jose explains where Ricky lives, and we go find Ricky.
All right, gentlemen, stay alert. We're not sure what we're dealing with here.
We're prepared for the worst. You always are when you make contact, particularly with a potential suspect in a shooting.
Police, open up! He's in there. Back off. Back off.
We hear him. It sounds as if he's bracing the door with something. Is he another IED guy?
Being concerned with the fact that we just went through one place where there were improvised explosive devices. He's friends with our victim. We don't know if it's booby-trapped or something else.
Ricky Fulton, we know you're in there. Come on with your hands up.
We explained to him we're going to come into that house, and you're not going to like it when we do. We're not in a position to want to hurt you, but we will do so if you don't open this door.
We don't want anyone to get hurt. If we have to come in there, we can't guarantee your safety. So kids, come on with your hands up. See your hand. Just don't shoot me, all right? I'm unarmed. Stop right there. Turn around. All right. Down your knees. Yes. Go ahead, Copper.
We're pleasantly surprised when he steps outside. At that time, he's detained, and we take him in for an interview.
I don't know what that other guy told you, but Doc, he had PTSD.
His story initially, without even questioning him, is, I can't believe Doc shot himself. Oh my God, he shot himself.
He was suicidal.
He explains to us that Doc's upset that the Gulf War just started. Being a Marine, always a Marine, he would like to be part of this, but he can't anymore. And for some reason, I guess the depression took over, according to Rigby, and Doc just shot himself.
Growing impatient, Kenda tests Ricky with a simple question.
All right, so when Doc shot himself, where exactly were you?
Doc was on the couch and I was on the other side of the room.
Yeah, Ricky, I don't think so.
We know from the physical evidence, the blood spatter, the autopsy, and everything else, that Ricky was behind him with a gun to the back of his head when he pulled the trigger.
Yeah, I'm getting tired of this. I know what happened.
We confront him with the physical evidence and the witness, and on. Ricky finally decides his attempt at telling us otherwise isn't going to work.
All right. I did it. I shot him, okay? But it was an accident, man. I mean, we were all just drinking and fooling around with the gun. Oh! Come on. Let me see.
Never.
Thank you. See? What's the matter with you?
He explains that they were playing kind of a stupid game of Russian roulette with a firearm, and that they're dry firing this weapon.
Do me.
And they're all passing back and forth, and it's a very friendly thing. Everybody's laughing, nobody's angry, nobody's confronting anybody. They're playing with that gun.
Somehow Doc shot a hole into the floor.
So the bullet in the floor and the residue on Doc's hand is from that event. He fired what he thought was a non-shot into the floor of this apartment.
It kind of scared the shit out of us, so we stopped for a while and then started drinking again, and out came the gun. And Doc must have loaded it when we weren't looking.
So when Pearson fires that shot into the floor, it's very likely that Rick was in the gun. He either doesn't notice or doesn't remember that Pearson loaded another live round to continue the game.
Fine, watch. Come on, Doc.
What are you guys doing? You know what? I'm gonna head home. You guys be safe.
So now it's his turn with the gun. He takes the gun, holds it up to Doc's head. Pull the trigger, and it discharges.
Doc?
Ricky, what did you do?
Ricky panics, puts the gun next to Pearson's hands, and runs out the door.
Ricky, what did you do, Doc? Get up! Doc, come on, get up!
Mrs. Pearson runs back in from the kitchen screaming, "What have you done to my husband?" And Jose says he shot himself. He says that to Mrs. Pearson. So, Ricky is in the wind, and our man Pearson is in the morgue.
Doc, get up! Doc, come on, get up!
Is it reckless and negligent? Of course it is. Somebody died as a result of his actions.
All right, Ricky, stand up. I place you under arrest for the death of Jeffrey Pearson. Go ahead and cuff him.
Stand up. Put your hands behind the back.
In May of 1991, Ricky Fulton is convicted of criminally negligent homicide.
He received a sentence of 2 to 4 years in a Colorado State Penitentiary for causing the death of Jeffrey Pearson.
It's just a sad story because you get the feeling that Doc was really a nice person. And it always really tears at me a little bit when you've got somebody who has been through a war situation and survived it, and then they die for some weird, dopey reason.
Now you gotta remember, when Ricky's doing this, Ricky's drunk. He is really drunk. So is there intent to kill? In my opinion, no, there isn't. It's a crime committed out of stupidity, not criminal intent.
Coming up, the discovery of human remains catapults Kenda into one of the most unusual cases of his career.
Could this be a crime that's never been discovered? Could it be old? Yes. What is going on here? How can we identify this person if possible? What can we do? We can't ignore this.
Fields on the east side of the city were used by people that were either running, jogging, dirt bikes.
Yeah! Come on! He always spins out like that.
And so that's what was happening this day. Kids were out there riding their ATVs, just having some fun. And of course, when you're doing that, dirt's flying around. There's vegetation that's being torn up and everything.
Look at that burnout. There you go. Yeah.
Dude, Randy, what are you doing?
There's something over there.
There were a couple of people who saw something distinct and different, and they went to explore a little closer.
Oh my God.
Is that a skull? Man. Hey, do you think it's human? Relative. We gotta get the police here now. Come on. Yeah. Come on. Come on.
There was a call from a patrol unit that is in the area of Pikes Peak and Murray, and he says he needs us to respond for the discovery of HR, an abbreviation for human remains. So I buzz over there.
The area where the bones were found already has Kenda thinking foul play.
Anytime you have terrain in close proximity to a city where there are no artificial lights, no street lights, it makes it more worrisome to us that it's connected to a criminal act. Things happen, as it's often said, under the cover of darkness.
Detective Skip Arms is already on scene.
Hey, Skip. So what do we got?
A couple kids out here on ATVs found the bones. There's a skull and some fragments, but they're pretty smashed up. Honestly, I don't know what we're looking at.
Undeveloped lot way out here. Definitely a perfect place to dump a body.
You got that right.
Let's take a look.
When you find human remains, it's a concern on a number of levels because you know that somebody wasn't placed there last night or last week, but that it was some time ago. That window of time could be huge, and we don't know if the person died there or was dumped there or something else. So a lot of questions.
There's no skin or tissue of any kind. So I guess it's been out here for at least a couple of years, maybe longer.
Yeah.
I have some training in the putrefaction or decomposition of human remains, but it's so widely affected by the environment that we don't know what we're dealing with.
It's just too difficult to say what we got. We're gonna need some help.
I already reached out to the coroner's office. They'll be here in an hour or two.
So we summon the El Paso County Coroner's Office.
Okay, in the meantime, let's go through the missing persons database to see if we can make a connection.
Sounds good. We'll be back in a couple of hours.
Okay, let the coroner know.
Anything you can find out about this body would be helpful. One of the first things that you'd want to know is it a man or a woman?
Back at headquarters, Kenda and Arms are faced with a daunting task.
How can we identify this person if possible? What can we do? We can't ignore this. We cannot. Odds are, if this is criminal, it's local and not somewhere else. Do we have missing persons on file that's never been discovered?
Okay, so here's another one.
What year?
That one is 80.
What we did in this case was to look at our own files and see if perhaps any of our older missing person cases could be tied in, because that's our only record of people that we can't account for.
We do our research into our files. We find 3 cases in the past 2 years that have some suspicious nature to them. Could they be these bones? It's a possibility.
One of them was an individual named Brian Ambrose.
Brian Ambrose was last seen kind of coming out of a seedy motel on Pikes Peak Avenue. And he was never seen again, so there's a possibility that maybe he was the one who was found in the field. Amadeja Vigil was another one that could possibly be this victim, because he was last seen. When you're a hitchhiker, obviously, you're putting yourself in danger. Who knows who could pick you up and, want to do harm to you.
Another case that we looked at was Linda Barker. She was in her early 20s, and she had last been seen driving her vehicle. Sometime after she went missing, her vehicle turned up at Denver's Stapleton Airport.
344 would be up the 1090 vehicle.
But a check of the passenger lists from all the airlines revealed that she never got on an airplane.
Could she be in this field? Yes, she could.
These all seem like good possibilities.
All right. We don't have enough info to take any farther. Yeah, we're gonna need to know more about those bones for any chance of an ID.
Yeah. Should we go back and see if the coroner has any answers for us?
Let's go.
All right.
Kenda and Arms have 3 possible victims from the past 2 years. They're hoping the coroner's office can rule at least one of them out.
So what do you think, Doc? Do you know the age of the bones?
Well, the short answer is no, we don't. The one thing that I do know is based on that calcification, they're at least a few decades old.
Really?
Because of the age of these bones, right away, police surmised that these were not the recent missing persons that they had been looking at.
Given the fragile state of these bones, I suggest that you bring in an anthropologist.
Wow. Okay, thank you.
Kenda may be working a murder from the 1950s or earlier.
I'm looking at these bones and I'm thinking, are you a man or a woman? And how did you come to be here? We have human remains. They are skeletal. We are initially concerned they're a missing person from the recent past, the last year or two. The coroner says the bones are calcified, indicating great age. Now we must determine what great age actually means.
To help make that determination, the detectives call in forensic anthropologist Michael Hoffman.
Yeah, so these remains are substantially damaged.
Nah, you aren't kidding. We get a lot of ATV traffic through here.
He said these bones have been so disturbed by the ATV traffic and the ground and their age. They're very fragmented and very, very fragile and can even be carried off by the wind.
Digging these up intact is going to be a real challenge.
Any bit of info you can give us would be very much appreciated.
One of our primary roles is to determine if there's any criminal activity involved.
The only way to know that is if we can find bullet holes or knife marks in the bones to say he was killed with a weapon.
All right, I'll see what I can do.
Is there anything we can do to help?
Well, I just need to keep this area clear from human traffic of any sort. There may be additional remains in the surrounding area.
Will do. At least make sure we block off all the roads around here. Don't let anybody in here.
Yes, sir.
Over the next few days, Dr. Hoffman and his team excavate the site.
It's very uncommon to have an archaeological dig in Colorado Springs in a field near town.
All right, careful now.
Archaeologists are interested in why somebody's dead, whether it's a crime or not. So they excavated it with great care, and the remains were treated well and respectfully, and we were in good hands at that point.
The excavation is a success.
All right, see you guys at the lab.
Hoffman transports the remains to Colorado College for further analysis.
I'd given Dr. Hoffman a few days, but I was very interested in those results.
Hey, how you doing?
Good, how you doing?
See you.
So, did you find out anything?
Well, I have good news and I have bad news.
Okay, let's get the bad news out of the way first.
Well, the bad news is I can't definitively determine how this person died.
He said that the odds of us discovering the method and manner of death are relatively non-existent. Is there a possibility someone responsible for this death is alive? Well, we're going to know that if we can determine the age of the bones.
Okay, so what's the good news?
You don't have a killer on the loose.
What do you mean?
Well, anyone associated with these bones has been dead a long time.
How do you know that for sure?
This skeleton has been in the ground well over 100 years.
Hoffman decides that at a minimum, they've been in this ground for 137 years. So it's no longer a criminal matter, it's a matter of curiosity, it's a matter of preservation, but it's not criminal.
So there's absolutely no way to find out what happened to this person?
Well, there is, but it would destroy the bones in the process.
Yeah, I don't think there's any need for that.
I have no desire to destroy human remains for the sake of idle curiosity.
Truthfully, I don't think this person was killed. There's no way to know for sure, but I think this person was buried.
Really? We didn't find any gravestones or markers of any kind.
That's because I think this is a Native American burial.
No kidding.
Given the lack of white men in the area in that time frame of 1830 to 1845, the common sense likelihood is it is American Indian. That was a matter of interest to me from a historical perspective, but not from a police perspective. There are two federally recognized reservations in the state of Colorado, the Mountain Utes and the Southern Utes. A Ute is an Indian tribe, and they were commonly living in this area during the time frame in question.
Any idea whether this person was a male or female?
Yes, based on the measurements, it is an adult female. We also expanded the search but found no sign of additional human remains.
Glad to hear that.
So the appropriate thing to do is to turn the bones over to the Bureau of Indian Affairs.
Yeah, that's fine by me.
Every culture on this planet among humans views the remains of one of their own with reverence. I'm well aware of that, and we would take every precaution as to not do any further damage and to try to identify the age of these remains and to preserve them as best we could once they were discovered.
While the woman's identity and cause of death remain a mystery, her remains are placed in good hands. At the time, such remains were handled by the Colorado Commission of Indian Affairs. Today, because of cases like this, they are taken care of by the tribes themselves.
Our ancestors should be reburied and with no markers like they were buried before. In the same proximate area, but if not, then somewhere that we know where they're at and not shared with anybody else.
Colorado's landscape is dotted with many such burial sites.
We would like to have other people be careful of where they walk, where they go, so they wouldn't be disturbing a lot of these places where our ancestors have been put away.
A new day brings a new challenge in the police business. This is something unique. A matter of interest to me from a historical perspective, but not from a police perspective. For our purposes, the matter was closed.